Hi folks, with Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the developing and forming up globalist tactics to sort of restrict and frustrate and hamper and just box in the Trump administration and limit its reach, not only in the US, but internationally. Now, in Trump's first term, the globalists were able to really attack Trump in the United States, or use all the organs of government against the elected president. And as incredible as that seems, they were, to quite a large extent, successful there. They kept wrong-footing him and his lieutenants. Jeff Sessions was caught completely off guard and just didn't know what to do, as indeed were other and some of the appointees that Trump was talked into hiring were deep state goons that were there to frustrate, hamper, and slow walk his program. And as was indicated by that Project Veritas interview with that guy Cohen, I can't think of his first name now, that interview the Project Veritas did, or he didn't realize he's being interviewed and filmed and recorded, but he was explaining how you can hold up a program, for example, the president's program policy platform, just by saying you're doing studies and you've formed committees to review it and all this sort of thing, and then you can slow it down to a point where nothing happens and you can frustrate and prevent the program from going in. This time it's a little bit different. President Trump's onto the game here. He's surrounded himself with people that are committed to his policy program. Tom Homan and Pete Hegseth and so on, Tulsi Gabbard, the list goes on, RFK Jr. So they're committed to the president's program and are determined to see it through. So at least he's got those on board. By eliminating the DEI programs, most of the people that would have run interference in these various government departments will also be removed. So the globalists have to rethink it. They're a little bit surprised by how quickly Trump came storming out of the gate there. I think they were a little surprised, and while they were thinking about, holy guacamole, what do we do? But they control a lot of things all around the world, the United Nations, the World Bank. I mean, there isn't anywhere really where they don't have either complete, the World Health Organization, complete or primary control. So their strategy is, how do we limit and restrict, Trump's reach? Now, they've already formed a globalist, centrally scripted propaganda narrative. So President Trump isn't. Firstly, they're focusing very much on, Trump is deporting these people. Trump declares they are guilty. Trump says. So they're declaring whatever he says is not legitimate. It's not true. It's a lie. And they've got a set of talking points. He's so unpredictable. He's this and that. And they're all saying the same thing, which demonstrates, of course, it's centrally scripted. Also, they've taken away all the difference between criminals, illegal aliens, undocumented migrants, irregular travelers, asylum seekers, refugees. They've changed the whole. All of these people are now just migrants. They're just ordinary people. They're just migrants. They just want a better life. And also the narrative about the deportations. Families are being attacked. Trump is attacking families. And families are ripped apart, and the emotional language. And, there's Consuela dressed in pink. Consuela's there crying and that, my daddy was there, my abuela, and you're looking at someone who supposedly was born in the US that barely speaks English. And what they don't say, of course, is this guy's been convicted of car theft, of drug dealing, of assault with a deadly weapon, of this and that and the next thing. The media don't mention it. So they've just got this thing of innocent families, little children being ripped from the screaming from that's bullshit there. So they've got, and this is all over now, whether I go to media in Australia or media in France or media in England or anywhere in the world, US, they've got a totally scripted set of talking points and they're pushing them relentlessly. and they've got control enough of the media where they can have quite a persuasive effect on the population around the world, and they're doing that, whether it's South America or anywhere. So they've got the narrative control, or to a large extent at least. Now, I believe the Trump team needs to, effectively, they need a unit within the government that is to fight the globalist machine. That needs to be there. What are the globalists doing? We must, oppose this or run a counter narrative and so on. Because if they try and splinter it off into bits, then they'll lose the bigger picture and the cohesion needed for the response to the globalists. And so I think they need to do that. I would argue with some urgency. Now, here's once it became clear that the flights of illegals, criminal illegals no less, had taken off from the United States to go to Colombia. As best I understand it, based on the media reporting at least, they had clearance to land in Colombia. And while they were en route, while the planes were in the air, that permission was withdrawn. So no, you no longer have permission to land. Now, my reading of this is the globalist machine got to that Colombian prison. I mean, Colombia is a little, failed state bullshit country. They got to that, and they're more notorious for cocaine drug lords than they are for anything else. And so the globalists got to the president. So you got to tell Trump he can't do it. Now, this is all part of a wider. Let's see what Trump does. Let's just see how he responds here. And then, because we'll run a concurrent media outrage program of innocent people. They're just migrants. What do you? Okay, so they killed a few people. They murdered a few people. Who cares? They're migrants. They don't have social power. How can you do this to them? You fucking Nazi. So that narrative. So they were exploding out with that narrative. And at the same time, so my take on this is the globalists got to the Colombian president, said that this is what we want you to do. Do this, say that, and he dutifully did it. He's probably only in the presidency because the globalists funded him and supported him in getting the job, because he would be amenable to globalist interests. So he his paymasters were saying this is what you have to do, and he did it. Trump came back straight away, bang! This is what's going to happen. And so they had no sort of choice but to back down. But they then paint that as tyrannical Trump, and so they then go into another coordinated again within an hour of Trump threatening the tariffs. If they wouldn't take back their own citizens, by the way, then the media campaign jumped straight again internationally, scripted the same. Jumped into gear and went bang straight, tyrannical Trump and poor little Colombia and all this sort of crap. Conveniently ignoring that these people are actually Colombian citizens, Colombian nationals, and that they've committed, multiple crimes. And we're not talking about stealing a chocolate bar or something or a candy bar. These people have committed serious crimes and they're in the US illegally. Now, maybe they're hardened criminals. So when the Colombians thought, well, why don't we empty out the jails and send these people to America? Hey, that's possible as well. But now the globalists are aware that Trump will react, straight away if they don't take it back. Now, there's a lot of countries around the world that are trying to get India, for example, to take back the millions of Indian illegals, mainly visa overstays, the millions of illegal Indian illegals that are around the world. And the Indian government just point blank refuses to take them back. No, not interested, don't want them. And now other countries don't have the sort of clout that the US has. So if Australia says, look, can you take back the 50,000 Indians that are over? No. And by the way, if you try and send them back, we'll just refuse to trade with you. And suck on that, Australia. And Australia is too small to play in that league. So what can Australia do? Okay, then, all right, we'll keep all these illegal Indians here. So now, but it's different with America. So if you try that on with the United States, firstly, the United States is much bigger, 20 times the size of the Australian economy. So they can have much more clout, and Trump's quite willing to use the power of government to say, no, you've got to take back these illegals or these criminals. This is not a matter for debate. You're taking them back, and that's it. So these countries that otherwise may be able to push back. There's no way Colombia, the president of Colombia, would do that on his own, unsort of provoked and unaided. Colombia is a little basket case failed state country effectively, and with a very small, well-to-do elite. But there's no way they could. He would think, I tell you what, I'll just tell the American president to fuck off and get fucked, and I'm not going to take that. No, he wouldn't do that unless the globalists put him up to it, and I'm pretty sure they did. And they'll be doing that with other countries around. I think that in the same way that the globalists used US trading power and US threats of trade. By the way, the idea that Trump's unique in doing this or it's the first time is bullshit. As I've said, in numerous other videos previously, I was sitting next to the trading committee from the trading committee from a Caribbean island that went to New York to Washington, or it was to meet the US trade delegation or trading State Department people, whoever handles the trade. And the guy I was sitting next to him on a plane coming back from New York to Texas or Florida or whatever it was. And he was quite bewildered, and he was sort of sitting there still stunned. Now, he was no genius. He was just the son of one of the rich warlord goons in the Caribbean islands. So it's not like he was some genius negotiator or something. But he said that they never wanted to talk about trade at all. There was not a word about trade. All they did was threaten us that if we didn't do what they wanted, they would cut off trade, and they would stop buying our sugar, and they wouldn't allow cruise ships to stop at the island, the tourist trade and that sort of thing, and they would take us off favoured tourist lists, and on it went. They just threatened us with everything under the sun, unless we set up divorce courts and we put gay lesbian counselling. We had pride flags flying and we had we had child support agencies that they wanted us. So the Americans were saying, you must do all this social engineering, globalist type social engineering, or we will punish you brutally on the trade front. So this has been going on for a long time. This is not a recent thing. America, the globalists have used America to do this. You have to have mass migration. If you don't, we won't trade with you. You have to have LGBTQ activism in the schools, or we won't trade. This has been going on all over the place, and America's economic clout has been used to force globalization down the throats of unwilling populations, including, by the way, you will put into government who we, the globalist mafia goon cartel, want. And you will put Angela Merkel in as Chancellor of Germany. You will do that. You will put Tony Blair in, and so on, in Britain. And so that all these very pro-globalist hangers-on and goons and stooges get put into political office or in the public service. So I would argue strongly that President Trump needs to use American power to reverse these globalization. Now, what the globalists are doing is they're moving the centers of narrative control and so on outside of the US. They've realized that they don't have free run in the US anymore. And so they don't have control of the public services in the way that they did or did when Biden was there or in the first Trump's on. But Trump needs to use the economic power of the US to say to India or somewhere, look, there are 50,000 Indian illegals in Australia. You're taking them back. Yes, you are, or else. And do this around the world. Go to Britain and say, okay, you're deporting those 1.5 million illegals are in Britain. You're deporting them starting right now. Yes, you are, and you will suffer horribly from trade if you don't do. And so Trump can unwind. And Trump needs to do this. The idea that the globalist goons and cartels are only in control or hold sway in the US, they'll just sort of sit out. They'll just go to the beach, sit on the beach, and sip their mango daiquiris while they wait for Democrat guy or a globalist stooge to come back in the US, or until they find a way of undermining Trump in some nefarious methodology. So Trump needs to reach out from the United States and treat this globalist thing as an international thing, which it is, by the way, and go after them internationally. It isn't enough that he just cleans them out of the United States, because they'll just set up shop in Britain and France and wherever. They'll set up shop somewhere else and come straight back in when Trump's gone. You can imagine they'll be when they've got a pro-globalist guy back in the White House, they'll have ticker tape parades, welcoming Jose and Consuela back into the US. You've come back after 8 years and you go, oh, look at it's wonderful, ticker tape parades, music, marching bands and so on. That'll be the future, unless the globalists are cleared out all around the world. And the use of American trade power to do that will destroy, I think, much of the globalists' international sort of fabric of power and control that they have. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.